Welcome to another daily roundup of Russian Telegram chatter. Your like and subscribe to my channel would really be appreciated. Subscription is free and it only takes a moment of your time. I monitor and translate Russian Telegram chat channels as a general mood check so you don't have to. Remember, please do your own research and be wary of propaganda and disinformation, which occurs frequently in Russian chat, especially when there is bad news for Russians concerning the country's illegal and genocidal war in Ukraine. The images used in the video are for illustration purposes only. They do not necessarily represent the issues or translations. And finally, please note, the chat is unverified and I do not endorse the views expressed. Right, let's get on with it. On Telegram today, Roskomnadzor will slow down internet resources even without a court order in Russia. The agency will be able to privately slow down the work of any online resources based on an extrajudicial decision by the Prosecutor General's office. According to the draft, Roskomnadzor, at the request of the Prosecutor General's office, will be able to manage communications networks through the use of technical means to counter threats or through mandatory instructions to communications operators, owners of technological networks or traffic exchange points. The Prosecutor General's office is authorized to block internet resources without having to disclose the details of the decision or even its name. Some interesting economics from the Russian Central Bank. The central bank has instructed banks to force clients to close mortgages they opened at low rates. It is extremely unprofitable for banks when deposits are attracted at a rate of 20% plus, and old mortgages are issued at rates half that. Banks are simply being torn apart, and the central bank can no longer help. Banks have begun offering bonuses to borrowers of up to 15% for early closure. But borrowers should not worry and repay early. They are in a very advantageous position. As they say, the bank was burning, the loan was repaid. But those who should worry are depositors. Firstly, banks have a lot of problem debts for which reserves have not been created. Secondly, there are a lot of mortgages at low rates. But the most important thing is long-term Russian government bonds, also known as OFZ, which have collapsed by more than 50%, only freezing deposits, only hardcore. The head of Dagestan, Sergei Melikov, sided with Suleiman Kerimov after Ramzan Kadyrov declared a blood feud against him and two State Duma deputies. According to Melikov, the Dagestani people will always support Suleiman when he needs this support. The words of the head of Dagestan were met with applause. Kadyrov claims that Kerimov ordered his murder because of the conflict around wild berries. Ridiculous, this bearded TikTok showman, Kadyrov. In his third medal of stupidity this week, Ramzan Kadyrov was awarded the medal Excellent Ambulance Worker. Health Minister Sultan Alkanov noted that Kadyrov provides support to the local healthcare system in difficult situations, comparing his assistance to emergency calls to 103. Suspiciously positive figures. Russia understates inflation, overstates GDP. This is the conclusion we came to at the Stockholm Institute of Economics, which said the economic indicators look suspiciously good for a country that is waging war. In particular, the authors of the report draw attention to the fact that Rosstat data differs significantly from alternative inflation indicators. In July 2024, inflation according to Romir calculations was 21.2% versus 9.13% published by Rosstat. At Stockholm University, They also rechecked the dynamics of GDP. An alternative calculation using fluctuations in oil prices showed that instead of growth of 3 to 5%, the economy is actually stagnating. And recalculation in dollars shows a decline of 11%. State corporations failed to implement Putin's decree on the transition to domestic software. A number of state-owned companies have once again asked the Ministry of Digital Development for a deferment until 2027 for the transfer of critical infrastructure facilities to domestic software. Such an appeal was sent by Rosatom, Gazprom Neft, Roscosmos, Rostec, Russian Railways, and Rostelecom. The current regulations require government agencies and state-owned companies to stop using foreign software from January 1st, 2025. Russian enterprises in the metallurgical and chemical industries, as well as the fuel and energy complex, still implement more than 98% of projects using foreign software. This was shown by the latest study by Severstal. The Central Bank of Russia has published a report on the demographic and financial situation in Russian households. Since 2010, the number of single-person households has increased from 25.7% to 41.8% in 2021. This trend continues, especially among citizens with low or middle income. Gazprom CEO Miller publicly criticized European countries for stopping buying Russian gas. According to Forbes, Gazprom became the most unprofitable Russian company by the end of 2023. The Central Bank of the Russian Federation may consider raising the key rate to 20 to 21% at the October meeting. Kazakhstan Stock Exchange announced the termination of relations with Moscow Exchange. Prices for auto parts in Russia have increased by 78% since the beginning of the year. Parts for European and Japanese cars have become especially expensive. VAG cars, including such brands as Volkswagen, Audi and Skoda, have shown the most significant increase in the cost of parts, almost twofold. That's all for today, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I also leave comments open for feedback, which I really appreciate. You can view my original posts in much more detail on Twitter. Follow me at beefeater_fella. My research threads also include full references and sources to speed up your own research. Did you know that I also provide daily updates and deep dive research videos on a range of interesting subjects including economics, geopolitics, sanctions, circumventions, fossil fuel updates, and much more. If you are able to support me with a coffee or subscription on Patreon, I do provide links in the description of the video. I really appreciate all the support I can get towards my research, equipment, and publication costs. Thank you. To those who have supported me on Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee, you are simply awesome. Your regular support is really appreciated. Remember, folks, the YouTube edition of my Russian Telegram chat translations is released every night at midnight UK time. Have a great day. I look forward to your next visit. Misinformation, disinformation, and